Hey everybody, Aaron here. Welcome back to No Anime Review. Today we look at the final episode of Juni Taisen, the Zodiac War, episode 12, as well as the whole series because I'll review that too. Now, Juni Taisen, many of you know, my first opinions of it were pretty bad. I thought it was kind of a generic way to start off everything. I wasn't really too enthralled into it. By episode maybe 2 or 3, I started getting more into it, and I started seeing the appeal of it. I actually really loved it up until a certain point, where we started having these characters kind of die off in ways that you already knew how they were going to die off. And even more so, it was worse, where you freaking would see the episode title being something like where, oh, a tiger dies and sheds its skin. It's like, you know who's going to die now. That started getting me a little pissed off. But I will say this. No episode was as bad, this whole season possibly, as bad as this week's episode. So the end of the series probably was one of the most annoying things ever. And here's where I'm going to probably divide some people with it, because on one hand, I understand the symbolism behind it. I get the symbolism behind it, which I'll get more into that when we actually talk about that. But on the other hand, the way it was done for a show that's basically been actions, psychological concepts, and sometimes supernatural concepts, it was almost like a 360 for the whole show, and it did it in a very poor light. Now, this week's episode, we continue with Rat, trying to figure out what he wants to wish for. We see him kind of pondering it nonstop. Every single time he's pondering it, he's like, what if I wished for this? And it starts off kind of goofy and silly, like he wishes to see the girl's skirt, flip up in the sky. He wishes he would have a girlfriend at one point. He wishes to bring back certain characters from the Juni Taisen himself. He starts thinking of all these things he could wish for, and it becomes debilitating for him at one point, which, it was a lot of talking, but I understood the concept of it, because it's like, what if you could only wish for one thing and you had that ability to do so? It would be kind of, for some people it would be hard. I don't know if it would be on the same level as Rat, but there would be some people that would have that feeling of kind of debilitating fear of, what if I wish for this, what happens if this happens? Especially seeing that Rat's power is, him going down multiple paths, because that's, in his mindset, something that is a boon to him. It helps him. But in this case, I think it hurt him, because he sees the possibilities of everything, and they're not all good. Now, what happens, though, further into this episode that kind of annoys the crap out of me, though, is that we finally do get the wish. And the wish is, I wish he would forget everything that happened, or for, Rat, he would forget everything that happened. And lo and behold, he becomes at peace with himself because he's forgotten the Juni Taisen. What's the point? I get that. I understand the symbolism. I get the peace concept of it. I get a lot of things about it. It does not make for a good episode, though. That's the thing. I know some people argue that there's an intellectual property to it. Like, you think, oh, it makes sense on an intellectual and mentality-based concept. I said mentality. But at the end of the day, it really is not good the way they did it. I think they could have executed it a whole different light. It would have been probably better if he really would have wished for multiple things, or if he would have, wished just to not really even forget, but to figure out what he wished for. Something stupid would have actually been better than what he wished for, because it's like, oh, what was the point of it? It ultimately brings that to the whole thing. It's like, what is the freaking point? That's what I legit have issues with, and it's like, I don't like the last episode. I think it's legit one of the biggest slaps to the face of the season, probably of the year, possibly, if I really think about it. And that's why, Juni Taisen's ending kind of pissed me off. Now, let's talk about this, though, real fast. So, Juni Taisen did some good things. It had some decent animation for the most part. There were some episodes that were kind of shaky, especially during the ox fight and tiger fight, etc. Some of those moments were a little weird. But it had some good moments. It had a good story to it at times. It had some interesting characters when they were fleshed out enough. I think some characters got thrown by the wayside, and others kind of went, meh, it's definitely been one of those hit or miss type shows. Did I enjoy it? Yeah, I kind of enjoyed it. I liked the concept of it. I think it got better at certain points, and, Nishiosen's work, I always typically like the mentality parts of it, like the parts that make you think a little bit. And that's one thing I think that's the strongest about him, is his how he characterizes characters in general, like how he puts them into this light where you can start thinking about them on a realistic scale, like, oh, you see someone who's so super strong, but then because of their strength, realistically, end up having all these disorders because they either A, are thinking that they need to do this, or B, are now kind of swarmed with responsibility that they don't know what to do anymore. And I'm really kind of aiming that more at like Tiger, for example. You know, even with Horse started getting to the point that, yeah, he was all bulky and strong, but when his strength failed him during the Juni Taisen, he realized how weak he really was, even though he was like, you know, this behemoth. So it's interesting to see that, you know, and I really did like that. There's a lot of real concepts, and they really did embody the realistic portions of what their characters were. I mean, like, if you think about all their traits, they were based off the Chinese Zodiac characters. So, you know, you had Horse being a strong, you know, thing, but at the same time, any horse will get scared and will run away when they feel like they have to. You know, Rat took the easiest way of doing things by always hiding and always kind of perceiving things from a distance, and rather than going towards danger, he ran away from it. And when he was able to, he would always avoid it. You know, it's interesting in that sense. That's what I did like about the show. But everything else, it's hit or miss. So definitely the characters and the concept of it are definitely stronger parts of Juni Taisen, but everything else is the weaker aspects of it, where it has strengths sometimes and kind of big weaknesses other times. That's why if I had to rate Juni Taisen between an A through F, I'm going to give it a C-. On Mal, I give it a 6, but for me, you know, if I'm actually rating it on a score, I'll give it a passing grade of a C-. You know, I enjoyed it. I think it was an okay show. It definitely wasn't the best thing of the season. It definitely wasn't even like my top probably 15 or 20 things a year, maybe even lower than that. It had its moments. It really did. And I think that for some people, they loved it. Some people hated it. And I understand both sides of the spectrum. So I'm definitely someone that falls in the middle ground. Like, I could take it or leave it. Like, if I would rewatch it, I probably would never rewatch it, to be honest with you. You know, once is good for me. That's it. Anyways, what did you guys think about Juni Taisen? Let me know in the comments below. As always, guys and girls, if you like my content, think about hitting that subscribe button, sharing the video around, liking the video. It helps me out a lot. As always, until I pass across again in the next review, have a good one, everyone. God bless you all. Bye-bye.